Okay, folks, here we go.
Here we go. Let's have a good show.
1B, stand by.
Yeah.
Yacht, stand.
Yeah,
Take
take it at midfield. Just go
take
right
it
now.
off.
Go to
Well,
camera 3. 3. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yep. Graphics 2 is going to be up for the first. Okay.
Okay.
Go right there. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to Q. Sophie.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Yep. Go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
1B, stand by.
10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
Here we are, Willie. Bueno, here we go. It is 8 o'clock Eastern time. It is 5 p.m. Pacific time. And it is 7 p.m. Canal Zone time. It is happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. Ricky, happy Friday to you, man.
Happy Friday, everybody. As you guys know, Willie Benninghoff here on my right? And I am Ricky Royal, class of 81, which we have a big reunion this year, by the way, Willie.
Yes.
Well, welcome, everybody, to our weekly happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club, like Willie just said. It's a Friday night podcast, guys, that brings you the Canal Zone right to your living rooms. A happy hour, truly, where everybody's going to know your name. Guys, let's grab our drinks, whatever it is. Tonight I got coffee. Let's toast to the eighth wonder of the world, to the Zonians, a.k.a. the Mango Heads. Let's go, Willie, because we got a great show tonight.
Yes, we do. Salute. And, of course, I got my Michigan Wolverines glass today. They made it to the Final Four. So, and I can honestly say this, of all the Final Fours, this is the one in recent memory where I can honestly say the 4 best teams are playing, because I mean it's just, I mean, they're really, really good teams, all of them that have made it to the finals. So should be
Canal
good.
Zone College, Red Machine, Bulldogs, and Tigers. Let's go.
Bulldogs are favored, of course, so that's the way that should work. But no, you're right, though. We have an absolutely great show tonight. It's the first first Friday of the month, so it's our Canal Zone history. And it's interesting that Dave's going to be talking about the Causeway Islands, right? And coincidentally, today or this week we had the USS Nimitz right off the Causeway Islands, hanging out, doing some stuff in Panama. So,
and we had some of our folks that went on it. He's going to come on tonight and chit chat with us, his experience, and show some pictures, guys.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. It should be a lot of fun. And again, the Causeway Islands have a great history. That's, the islands were obviously there way before the the Causeway itself. That was as we've learned, that's part of maintaining the channel from getting filled in all the time. But but the islands themselves, that was actually on the Pacific side. That was like the deep water port area, right? When you get to Panama City, Casco Viejo, all that area, you couldn't bring big boats into there because it was all shallow.
Yeah,
Think of the tides.
I did a little research on the islands from the Conquistador period, Willie, which is like the 1500s through the 1800s, right? So in 1513, Willie, Balboa discovered the Pacific for the Europeans, obviously.
Right.
Everybody who lived there already knew about it, and Willie, Spain at the time knew, oh my God, we need to protect the Pacific now, right?
Right.
So those islands, Willie, were first used by the Spanish to shield their treasure because it's in a perfect location for defense of the Panama Bay.
Yeah.
So that's what the conquistadors used the islands, and then the French came in the mid 1800s.
Right.
And Willie, they used those islands as where it's like an engineering gateway. In other words, from the most furthest island. That's where they measured everything from. So from this island,
So is that
500
like a
miles
starting
over
point?
there is that point. From this island,
Yeah.
so it was the starting point. So
Yeah.
that's how the French used it.
Okay.
And then
well,
the
for record-
Americans came in afterwards, Willie, and they used it. They fortressed it. They used it for fortress. I'm sure that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And then, of course, Panama now has it, and they basically have reclaimed it as a national asset. And we'll talk about what Panama has converted the causeway into. A success
no, without
story.
a doubt. I mean, and you could certainly one would certainly argue that without the causeway, it wouldn't be what it is today, right? Some of the things we're going to talk about here about the defense and all that stuff, you could certainly pull that off still, because I mean, the military is the military. They could, with ships bring stuff on there, but what you see today with cruise terminals and restaurants and houses.
Yeah,
in fact,
it's
it's
centuries of hard work, right? From a treasure shield to an engineering gateway to a fortress to what it is today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we're gonna chat about that later on here. But we are gonna move along quickly here, because we do have a special guest that's gonna be joining us here in a few minutes to talk about about the USS Nimitz and that visit to Panama that it did this week as part of its retirement or its final voyage, I guess you could call it. But let's say hello to a couple of folks here, and then we'll get our sponsor out of the way and do some quick announcements and get moving along with our Nimitz here, because Dave Dahlstrom has a fantastic Causeway Islands absolutely knockout report to do here. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyhow, Jim, good to see you. Highlight of the week. It's our highlight of the week. My whole week I'm waiting for Friday, man. I'll tell you. I told my wife,
me
"That's in the
too, Willie. I
afternoon,
like my
leave me alone,
Fridays,
man."
Yeah, me too. It's I'm a routine person, so this is
fun.
great for me.
I
Yeah.
absolutely enjoyed. I enjoy the heck out of doing this. It is a lot of fun. And,
Yeah, me too,
And Ricky
me
and I
too,
both
me
have
too.
a great time doing this, so it definitely is. Jim and Diane, good to see you guys. Good evening. Hope all is well with you guys. Yes. Don't need too many Easter. Yeah, we did, and we paced ourselves all week so that we would be able to, in case we went a little overboard on Sunday. But it's we're in that in between stage where the grandkids are still too young, so there's not a lot of candy there yet, and the kids obviously have moved on past that. So we've got a bit of a buffer here, but we're probably another 2 years away from getting a lot of candy again and loading all that up. So hopefully that won't be the case. But happy Easter to you, and God bless you as well. Rich, I think Rich is chiming in there. Buenas amigos, how you doing?
Hey, Rich, good to see you.
Yeah, here it is.
Told you, it's a place where everybody knows your name.
That's right. Yeah, good to see you, Rich. This is going to be a really cool show. Rich chimes in quite often, and we appreciate having you guys on. We love seeing the same names here. And then, of course, good morning, from Japan.
Oh, yes, sir.
Akira
Good morning,
Matsushita
yes.
chiming in. He's been contributing a lot on some other stuff. I kind of, creep into his page every so often, and he is really active in a lot of different historical things, and it's really cool. If you want to learn some stuff about the Japanese culture, definitely give him a follow and check him out, because he's got some interesting stuff as well.
Yeah,
and a Panama connection.
Our history with Japan goes back to the mid 1800s as well. Right when the
Yes.
Chinese came, right
Yes,
when the
indeed.
French came, right when the Americans came, the Japanese
When
were
that
there too.
railroad first came out, absolutely.
Yeah.
They used Panama, and it's interesting that they used Panama to get to Washington as opposed to traversing through the United States, right? So it was safer to take that voyage and go through Panama than it was to
Cross
get
the
off the ship
continent.
in California and cross the continent in the mid 1800s. So yeah, right on. Easter outfits. I got my Canal Zone shirt here. That's my Easter outfit today. But I should have worn one. You're absolutely right. I wasn't paying attention. I got caught off guard there. So we'll have to maybe a post Easter shirt. I'll have to come up with one next week. But ¿Qué pasa, Lori? How you doing? Good to see you. Happy Friday to you. Salute, everybody.
Miss Lori Hunt.
Toast to you guys. And
I'll tell you, she's an entertainer. Lori Hunt is on Instagram, and she does these great skits with her daughter-in-law, and you guys do a phenomenal job. I mean, this is
right on.
top-notch acting, girls. Good job, by the way. So toast to that, Mrs. Hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. Salute to you as well. Definitely. So let's do this, guys. Let's talk to our friends at Howler Monkey Sauce, and then from there we will bring on our first guest. He's going to be on just for a few minutes, but he's going to tell us about all these great things that went on with the Nimitz and a couple other things that are going on in the Captain Andrew F. Midas world there. So stay tuned. But let's pay some bills here real quick.
We're still looking for our Howler Monkey hot sauce spokesperson. Just got an email from Panama.
You've got mail.
Hey, I'm Mac, and I grew up behind Howard Air Force Base in Panama. I can talk about hot sauce. On pizza, uy, que rico.
Que rico.
So I just miro la camera and say, I'm Mac. I grew up in these trees next to Howard Air Force Base. Hey, are we really going to Napoli? And let me tell you, the flavors of ají chombo, garlic, and onions, they each hit you one at a time, and it's so delicious. Howler Monkey Original brings the true taste ají chombo of Panama to your pizza game.
Do you know a howler monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers, or the fresh punch of verde where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, fired up with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
That's our Howler Monkey spokesperson. The next one is coming out here shortly, and then of course we have our fourth one to come here. But we had a visitor from the U.S. Navy join us off the coast of Panama this week. A really exciting a trip there for the. Hold on a second. Let me try and get this thing to work. Why isn't this? No, anyway, so the USS Nimitz was in town this week in Panama. It's going to be decommissioned here soon, and so it arrived in Panama earlier in the week, and it was really cool. A lot of people were visiting. A lot of dignitaries went on there and stuff, and then of course our own Captain Andrew F. Demitis, who was in our green room and just stepped away real quick here, but he was going to tell us all about that experience on the Nimitz. He was actually talking to us about it in the chat room, and we're gonna just go ahead and throw him on the screen here. When he gets in the camera, he's gonna get popping in here. But anyhow,
he's at makeup.
Yeah, exactly. He's working on makeup there. But so even prior to its arrival, this was announced, of course, a while back that the Nimitz is being decommissioned, and so it's doing what's called a Southern Seas. I don't know,
a farewell tour.
Yeah, some kind of a farewell tour, and I imagine it's gonna end up here on the East Coast somewhere, and then can finish off its last tour and then be decommissioned. It's been around for a long time, but it stopped along with a destroyer. It stopped in Panama, and there he is. And so they were docking in there, and so even planning on it, Captain Andrew was talking about that and some things that they had there, and he had to put his foot down, and he said, you know what, listen, Uncle Sam in United States Navy, this is where the boat's going to be parked, and that's just all there is to it. So
I mean, he literally was the one that made the final decision. I mean, not the final decision, but the one that said, hey, you need to put it here, and that's where it went.
Yeah. So anyway, Captain Andrew, welcome. Good to see you there back in Panama. Captain Andrew F. Demitis, everybody.
Yes, right out, Captain.
Be a part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Friday to everybody. Dave,
Howdy.
how are you?
Happy Friday to you, brother. Happy Friday, man. So anyhow, the Nimitz, it came into town. This is something that was planned for a while now, right? It's something that they were going to be doing as part of the farewell tour, right?
Well, I got word from it from probably about 30 days ago, that they needed some boats to help bring sailors ashore,
right?
For port.
So that would be your business, right?
Yeah, right. So we got the Serenity. She did 4 days of 24-hour service, and
wow.
So that was cool, and but that's interesting, the dynamics of how do you get that organized. I mean, Maurice Cohen was involved in it, with his company, which is what's the name of his company?
Maurice Cohen, by the way, is a Zonian.
Yep, CHS 85.
And he's like one of the lead guides over there that they did. It's called. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Something Industriales.
Yeah, I saw it earlier on. I threw him up on when I threw the promo video out there. It has a picture of him standing on the deck, and he's all decked out. He looks like he's actually part of the crew of the ship, you know. But he's actually there on a working capacity for his company that's supporting it, right?
Barges out. I don't know what other support they did, but they put the barges out there, you know, because it's a lot of logistics to get. You know, they have 3,000 ship's crew, 2,700 on the squadrons. So on that particular voyage, they had only 2 squadrons of F-18s and like half a squadron of the helicopters.
Right.
So there was, you know, less than 30 on board there during their stop. But there's a lot of logistics, and the logistics of any Navy ship going into a port is quite a handful. And I can tell you the history in the sense that, well, for aircraft carriers are unique in that the majority of them, you know, can't go to the berth for whatever reason. You know, they're nuclear powered, or they don't want to be there for security purposes. So they have set up the ferry service. But before we talk about that, you know, in the Navy, recently they had a big scandal with the shipping agents. When a ship comes into a port, whether at a pier, at a terminal, or anything, they have a local representative, which is the shipping agent.
Right.
And about 10 years ago, they had a big scandal in Singapore, and so that changed the whole dynamics of how to assign a shipping agent. Because I think before they would always use the same guy. They would use the same shipping
Sure.
agent. After this scandal, now when a ship comes through, it's somebody different every time.
Interesting.
And in this case, the logistics was out of Colombia, from a company running the logistics and show. He hired.
Now, who hires that? Is that the Navy that hires them, or is it you guys?
Yeah, they have their people.
Okay.
South. You know that once they get into Southcom area, you know they're under their jurisdiction.
Sure.
That way was the 11th battle group. You know, there's 11 carriers.
Right.
I think by acquired. And I met the admiral, very nice guy, Admiral Norman, Cassidy Norman, and actually he's a colleague of a former Zonian, of a former naval aviator and Zonian, Luke Robinson. If any of you all know him,
Oh, right on.
And
that's cool.
Flew F-18s. And so I asked him, "Hey, you know this guy, Admiral Norman?" "Oh, yeah, he's a nice guy." And the Admiral was super nice, and I gave him one of my challenge coins. And then, Willie, I showed you a picture of the coin. And he's probably, I think, one of the only admirals in the fleet right now that has 2 carriers in his squadron.
Oh, wow.
And the reason that is because the Nimitz was scheduled to go retire.
Right.
But they're extending that for 1 year more, just in case anybody didn't know. And the replacement for the carrier Group 11 is the Truman, which is in Washington and Washington State doing some,
sea trials, isn't it? Still.
It's just getting fixed up or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, right. Get everybody trained up and ready to go and familiar with the ship.
So the deal there is they'll be swapping out, and they'll be down, to 1 carrier in Battle Group 11.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
there's 5,700 people on board there, and there are a lot of things to consider, for security and everything. And it was interesting. I mean, this whole anchoring thing that you brought up at the beginning of the show here, this anchoring thing, because I was talking with my office, I was talking with various people involved in that, and from what I understood, they were going to anchor near the channel access. There's a lot
Okay.
of traffic in and out, in and out, in and out, and so there's some things that I brought to points, highlights, and I said the best spot would be over here on the east side, so it's a quick getaway and.
Sure, and we've got that like a solar radar coverage or whatever on the screen right now. That image there, and it shows the different ships out there. You can see where Panama City is, and you can kind of make out where the causeway is. And the ship is actually, on a regular map, it's what, southeast of the causeway. Technically, is that correct?
Yeah, southeast there, and out of canal waters. Basically, that's out of the canal anchorage. But
and to get out there, Andrew, how long did it take? And was it by boat or how they get you out there?
To do the visit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went on my boat. We jumped on the Serenity, and to get on and off an aircraft carrier, if you're not going to go by helicopter or by the Greyhound, which is the passenger plane that they use, which is what they use to go and take the deputies and the and the governor, not the governor,
the mayor,
and the vessel was off of Coiba when all that went down. So somewhere,
interesting.
Because they were doing maneuvers out there, right? And then when they came closer, they weren't doing any more maneuvers. Is that why?
No. I mean,
I think it was just a treat because they were dignitaries, so they got to fly in.
They got to see the maneuvers. Because I know when like everybody else was allowed on, and I saw the pictures they posted, there weren't any planes taking off like there were when the mayor was there.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Right,
well, I'm sure they put a show on. I don't know. I didn't ask, but I think that they put a show on.
They did,
for them. You know what I mean?
Did. Yeah, they had them. I mean, standing just a few feet from the catapult, and watching the first one just jettison off it, and then they had them a few feet from the arrestor cable when they were touching down, which I thought was bizarre because, God forbid, that cable breaks. Those guys are all standing out there, but
that was more. Listen, that first group was more of a political statement showing who the ambassadors type guys
they
was.
Gave them though, because even people on the deck that work there typically aren't standing out there when it's taking off and landing. So it was. I found that interesting to see those. We've got some of those pictures on here, so we'll go through some of those pictures. You can talk about them because
but the interesting thing is, they got to land and take off on an aircraft carrier. Now that would have been,
those guys were there for that. Now, Andrew, how long did it take to get out there from, let's say, wherever you guys started from?
No, we started from the cruise ship terminal. They had some nice little piers
out there in Amador.
All there, some floating docks. And they had a nice setup there, very nice, secure, and then to the barge, which was strapped to the fantail or the transom of the Nimitz. That's how they set it up, but it's always set up like that because the Navy has, like I said, lots of experience for shore liberty call in various ports, and they have a fendering system on the stern just for the Liberty barge.
Yeah,
and that
so you can get on the Nimitz right from the water level. Because us guys that don't know anything about it, you think you got to come from the top or something.
See if I can find that picture because I got it on here. That picture, you can see the barge clearly hooked up.
Yeah, the barge, and that's what Maurice set up. His company said.
Yeah, I thought I had a picture of it here, but it was attached to the back, flush to the back of the ship. And you know what it looks like is, remember the floating dock out at Amador Beach? It looks like that, but it's obviously much bigger. But it's just a big flat thing that attaches to the back of it, and then the boats dock to that thing and get off and climb in there.
And then you walk. Cool. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what a big event for the country, in my opinion, of course. I know some people were
and the
upset
barge
about
has
it.
to meet certain specifications, and certain
You can see it a little bit
because
on this
it's a big
picture.
operation, you know.
Oh,
to
there
bring
you are in the
people-
back. Yeah.
And that's your boat right there, Andrew, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Because this isn't one of your pictures, but I got this off the internet. But that's your boat on there, and that's what he's talking about. So Maurice Cohen, guys, CHS class of '85. His company does this, and that was what they did. Is set up that barge to connect to the ship, so that they can get on and off without having to, because it's not like a cruise ship, with it's got gangplanks and everything on it. It's
So we know minimum 2 Zonians made money off that deal.
yeah, that's it.
Right on, guys. Hey, cheers for that, man, for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So they had that tied up there, and that's where you access right there on the. Oh, there you go. You can see that rubber thing there on that back. Go back to that picture, if you can. You can see the fendering system. There's that fendering system. You see? The fender. No. Well, anyways, they have that set up for. Oh, there's Maurice. Yeah.
Yeah. I should have had these in order. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to go through them, and you can kind of talk about what we have here. So this is them getting ready to launch an aircraft, right? And you got all these people getting ready there in the wait.
And you can see the 3 white helmets. Those are the dignitaries with their phones out, because obviously that wouldn't be what the military guys would be doing.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them there. You can see all the way down the road.
No, on the first trip, there was only 3 or 4 that went on. They had several, like several waves, so to speak. The first one was really political, and then the second one was like the government people and stuff like that. And then the third, fourth, fifth were I guess special invites. And our captain was one of those special invites. He was able to bring.
And then
his
you
wife
can see here, this is the ambassador.
That's the ambassador,
the newly married ambassador
to Fito, the ex-vice president.
Yeah,
Fito Duque, Altamirano Duque's granddaughter.
Yeah.
That's right before you go into the hangar deck. And I didn't realize that Trump used that picture as an official photograph.
I know, right? I was thinking the same thing, man. He was like, is he going to be smiling? He's like, well, I'm commander-in-chief, man. So that's what he put in there. But
that picture's when he was arrested.
Yes. I mean, oh, that cracks me up. But yeah, that's
Julieta was like, this can't be real. I said, yeah,
it is real. It is. So now here's again another picture of these guys taking, and you can see the arrestor cable on it, and the smoke that had just touched down. So I mean, this is literally as that plane is catching that hook, that arrestor wire, and these guys are right there on that deck, which I found kind of surprising that they would do that, but hey, they know better than I do.
Yeah. That's pretty intense, that coming on and off of there.
Sure.
The guy, I would have enjoyed that for sure.
Yeah.
Especially getting catapulted off the deck.
Right.
That was a pretty intense evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, so we got on. We went through the hangar deck, and they talked about the different aircraft, and they have 2 special, one helicopter and one F-18 on display down there on the flight deck. They had them all hanging out on the flight deck, the other aircraft that they had. Then we went up to the bridge, and the interesting thing was when we were up there, they were kind of a little nervous, the lookouts or because they were talking to each other. And I said, well, let me back up. When I was on the main deck, on the flight deck,
right,
I was talking to the guy, a buddy of mine from the embassy, and I said, what is that over there? Do you see that? And I don't know if any of you saw the final countdown, but it was filmed on this vessel.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Wow, that's cool.
And we had a final countdown flashback because astern of us about 4 miles was an FFG. An FFG is a destroyer, Oliver Perry class destroyer. I think it's Oliver Perry. I can't remember. But anyways, they have not had those ships around in the U.S. inventory for over 15 years. I was on one of the last ones to transit the canal, the USS Simpson, on a northbound transit. So they retired those. And I'm like, is that an FFG back there? And the guy was like, hey, they filmed the final countdown on it. So we're like having a a flashback.
And he's like,
in
how the hell
time.
does this guy know all this shit?
And what happened was 3 ships, which I sent you the pictures earlier from Taiwan, are coming northbound tonight. And one of those hand-me-downs is an FFG. And so when I went up to the bridge, I was like, hey, you guys saw the FFG up there? And they're like, oh, where's that from? Because, we need to be informed when another combatant is in our area,
Right. Sure.
So, I told them, I don't, no worries. They're here to transit. You have any questions, Channel 12, VHF, talk to the port entry coordinator. But there's 3 of their ships and they're here to transit northbound. And like, oh, okay. Well, would have been nice if somebody informed
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Thanks for the heads up, man.
Yeah. So,
That's too
because that's understandable. I mean, another combatant coming within, a few miles, you want to know what's going down,
Sure. Of course. Of course.
So we went up to the bridge. We, like I said, and we did a tour of the bridge and the flight deck, and we did the hangar deck. There's the admiral in that picture there. He's the one next to the Marine Corps guy on the right.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
And then the guy to the left of the ambassador then is the captain of the ship.
Oh,
With the mustache?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so his name is Norman, Admiral Norman, Cassidy Norman. Real nice guy, very nice guy. And he gave me one of his challenge coins because I gave him one of mine when we came aboard. I said, "Hey, thanks for having us aboard here. Here's a Panama Canal pilot challenge coin."
Wait. Tell us about that. What is a challenge coin? Because you've mentioned that like 3 times.
Yeah, the challenge coins are a Navy tradition. I forgot exactly what, basically it identifies the unit you're from, and you're supposed to present it like on greeting an opposite unit. If you don't have it, then you got to buy a round or something like that. I can't remember.
You get even like when you go to air shows, a lot of the pilots will have them and they'll hand them out as well. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, when I fly to Miami, I like to give them to the pilots, and they really appreciate it. And some of them were like, "Hey, you should have given me this at the beginning. I would have given you free drinks."
You're like, "Damn, you want to start over?" That's funny. That's funny.
So, I got his coin, and it says, about carrier group 11,
right?
And the ship is named Old Salt, which was I think Nimitz's nickname. But Old Salt is a Navy saying. Old Salt is always the officer that's been in the Navy the longest on board.
Well, let me tell you,
referred to, go talk to the Old Salt.
I remember when I was in the Navy, we were walking out of the chow hall one time, and it was a Marine Corps colonel was walking the other way, and one of the people in our group apparently did a half-ass salute. I don't think it was me, but the guy turns around and he's like, "Are you guys too damn salty to salute, right?" And we're like, "Oh shit, this ain't good, man." And every time I hear those stories, that's the first thing I think of. Is like, "Yeah, that's exactly right, man. You ain't that old, man." Because we were fresh out of boot camp, man. He could tell me. He's like, "Dude, you ain't that salty, brother. You ain't even dip your toes in the water yet." But
everybody's got a good saluting story. When I was a midshipman, because I went to A&M and I was in the Naval Reserve setup that they had there at A&M.
Right.
And we got invited. They flew us out to Pensacola, and back then they had a training aircraft carrier, which is long gone now. It was called the Lexington.
Right.
The Lexington would fly. It was just a straight deck, small aircraft carrier, thrown together with bits and pieces. And in the hangar deck is considered an open salutable area. I just stepped into the passageway, and my buddy behind me was walking like 5 feet behind me, and this is back when females were first coming aboard, and this lady officer comes out of the hatchway and she goes, "Hands out of the pocket and salute."
Of course. Heck yeah, man.
I couldn't stop laughing because he's walking around with his hands in his pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't play, man. You got to do it right, or it's. And they love to pick on the young ones, man. They know that if they see you're young and new, they'll go after you and everything. So, but
But that was a great experience. We got to see them trap and launch aircraft, the training aircraft, and I told that to the admiral. Yeah, I said, it was 1987 when I was on the Lexington for about 4 days from Lexington to Galveston, or 3 days. He goes, "Oh, I was in ninth grade back then."
nice. That's hilarious. No, it was I when I was in when I got transferred to Pensacola, the Lexington was still there right before it got decommissioned, and I went on. And it is amazing to see those things, and to think that that's a small carrier compared to the ones they have now. But it's an incredible machine that they operate, these aircraft carriers, and you guys are really fortunate, to have been able to see that down there. Real quick, before you jump off, there's something else that I wanted to ask you about. We were going to talk about, hold on, this thing right here. There's something, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this term, but the Order of the Big Ditch. Anybody familiar with that term?
Sounds prestigious.
Yeah, it's let me share the screen here just a moment. Bear with me here.
Well, before you show that, just so you know, the Navy is very traditional with all kinds of certificates, as some may or may not know, such as the Blue Nose when you cross the Arctic. I got that one. I have the Blue Nose, and uh, when you cross the equator, when you cross the date line, there's about 7 or 8 of them,
Okay.
and one of these certificates that you try to get is, one is crossing the Big Ditch, the Order of the Big Ditch, and so that commemorates your salty passage through the canal, or if you, yeah,
There you go. Yeah. So the Order of the Big Ditch then is it certifies that. So in other words, it is a recognized nautical accomplishment, for lack of a better term,
from the
right?
Navy,
From the Navy.
yeah.
Okay, and so the Order of the Big Ditch, obviously, as you know, the Big Ditch is the Panama Canal, and this certifies that, and that would be your name there, having transited the Panama Canal and been duly initiated into the mysteries of the same, is hereby declared a member of this order. Said transit was accomplished on, and it'll give you the date of the month of the year on the good ship. Put your name of your ship on there. And then in this case, because now the Panama Canal has two different types of crossings, you got the original locks and the expanded locks. So how does one go about getting one of these Order of the Big Ditch here? Because this one obviously is special, as you notice on the lower right-hand corner there. This is this Cascadas Lodge deal here. So Andrew, how do I get my hands on this?
I'd like to say excellent work on that. Willie put that together, guys. Excellent. The guy's a craftsman in putting things together like this, which I really appreciate. So you go on partial transit on the Serenity. We do them once a month. Check us out at cpanamas.com and see when our next transit is. I think we have one coming up in the middle of the month. I can't confirm it yet. There's that opportunity coming up in the middle of the month, I believe, and we will be handing out these certificates to all those. We did it a couple weeks ago. We transited, and people seem to be happy to receive them.
It's cool. It's a nice little memento that says, "Hey, I did this." It's a thing, I mean, not everybody crosses the Panama Canal. It's one of the eighth wonders of the world. I mentioned,
you cross the Arctic Circle, you get one, the Blue Nose,
right?
And if you're on a ship, normally they have like a ceremony.
Sure.
And crossing the equator.
Yeah, I was going to say the equator's one.
The equator one is the what is that one called? I can't remember, but there's a big process for that, and They stick your head in a toilet, and they all kinds of
I don't want to know, man.
hazing going on.
Yeah, I'll bet. I'll bet. But no, that's cool, man. That's all. Listen, it's all great traditions. The nautical traditions are incredible. I mean, it supersedes everything else in the world in history wise, right? Because that's really how we started to expand in this world and find new lands and everything. A lot of it was on ships. So there's always been a great tradition there, and certainly Andrew is carrying that tradition very well. So, Andrew, listen, thank you so. Oh, last thing, did you want to talk about the museum, or you want to save that for another one, or?
Well, we'll do that another one when I'm further along.
I got you.
I have full-time employees, I'm happy to say.
Nice.
And some of the work that they're doing is just mind-blowing, as you well know.
100%.
Just the details on it, and it's going to be something everybody to look forward to, because it's going to be just massive and amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
Our desire is to bring you back in time in miniature. So I think everybody will be pleased by its. I don't know. We'll think about it and do a progress report.
Agreed.
Where we're at,
yeah.
where we started. I don't know what you think about that. That might be something.
Well, keep in mind that next month, the month of May, we've designated it Panama Canal Month, and every one of our segments is going to be about something on the Panama Canal. We're going to have you on. Lance Wiskowski is going to rejoin us to do that dredging show the right way. Trying to get a hold of David Cohen to do a tugboat segment with us as well. And Jim Duffus is going to be joining us to go over the Gatun locks and the ins and outs of the Gatun locks. So it's all Panama Canal next month, and you'll get an opportunity, obviously, with the Panama Canal report to come on and do that. And then, if we've got a progress report, then we'll throw it out there, man.
All right. Yeah. It's going to be. It is a lot of work, and I really. But we've been working on it for 2 months right now, and it's starting to take shape.
Yeah, it is. It's really exciting to see. Ricky and I have the good fortune of kind of getting a front row sneak peek at it. And I'll tell you, the other day, he did just a very, very casual with his phone going over some trees and stuff that are in a layout, and it really had depth to it. It really looked great, man. I was, I'm kind of picky about that stuff because, I mean, obviously, I like to, do things that make them look good, and that was. You guys are doing a great job, man. I'm excited to see that come out, man. So
and we were talking about, I mean, for introductory, you could do like a traveling display, have it at the airport, have it at the convention,
for sure,
have it at different places to get people excited about it eventually.
Yeah.
We're taking it one step at a time right now, and we do have 2 full-time employees, and it's just. It's pretty amazing, I think. Hopefully, if it continues in this direction, then it should be just something impeccable.
Yeah, agreed. It's really going to give you a great perception of the canal, a different look, a different view of it. I'm excited for it, man. It's really cool. So anyhow, congrats on that. Thanks again. This was very last minute. I literally a couple hours before the show, I said, hey, by the way, are you working tonight, or can you jump on and talk about the Nimitz? He's like, yeah, I'd love to, man. So
we just
last minute,
to close it out a little bit. We were out in Toboga, fantastic island. I recommend anybody come down here. Join us out in Toboga, because we did a beautiful. I'll tell you, my hat's off to the municipal of Toboga, or whoever took the initiative. And I'm telling you, the history of Panama, this show, what is in the air, or what has been going on lately to bring out the richness of the history of this country is amazing. Because let me tell you what I saw today in Toboga. They blazed that trail to the 3 Crosses. I don't know if you all know about the 3 Crosses. The trail is immaculate.
Okay.
That's a 45-minute hike to the 3 Crosses with some nice signs, that show the history.
Sure.
The path is clearly directed. And it talks about that, the island was under attack by a pirate, Inglesworth, I think his name was, in 1819. and 3 of his sailors died. They buried him up there, according to the legend. That's
Right.
where the 3 crosses are. We continued up to the bunker, which they have painted and made a museum in the bottom part
Oh,
with
wow.
pictures.
Okay.
And they hauled out 2 of 505 millimeter or 105 howitzers
100. Yeah.
that were located on the south side of the island. 2 of them they undug. The other 3 are still embedded in the dirt, and you can see where they put the charge, to disable the
Sure.
guns.
Right.
Instead of hauling them back ashore or whatever,
Just
they
make
said,
them unusable.
we're just going to blow them up here.
Yep. That's smart.
Which interesting. I didn't even know that they had these batteries on the south side of the island, and I want to go back there and see where they were set up.
Man, if only you had a
But,
boat that you could get out there whenever you want.
The island is really transforming. Talking about the history, the pirates. The church was in full bloom with religious services for Easter,
Sure.
which happens, I think, to be the second oldest Catholic church in the Western Hemisphere, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, that's very interesting. Well, we'll probably learn about that with our historian Dave Dahlstrom, who'll be telling us all about that, because that's
the first
pirates
one's here in
play a
San
big role,
Francisco.
So that should be exciting, man. I'm really looking forward to it. And you're absolutely right, though, Andrew, that Panama is there's a huge excitement now for promoting Panama and the history of Panama, and one thing that we're seeing that we're really enjoying is that it's including United States history as well again, which for a while there was kind of disappearing.
So, thank you guys for having me. You're my brothers, and I appreciate the camaraderie and the spirit of keeping the Zonian life
Community.
candle lit. And
Yep.
and I look forward to your shows, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Andrew. And again, don't forget, guys, next month, the month of May, is Panama Canal month for us. So Andrew will be on doing a Panama Canal pilots report. So we're looking forward to that. But again, thank you so much, Andrew, for taking the time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend and a happy Easter, brother.
Happy Easter to you all, guys.
Take care. Cheers. All right, Dave, you're right on here. Sorry, brother. We threw you right in here on top of it, but nonetheless, it is the first of the Friday of the month, and this is Dave Dahlstrom time, and so we'll bill Andrew for encroaching on your time there a little bit, but nonetheless, listen, that was really cool stuff, because what a great coincidence that Andrew, happened to be doing this whole Nimitz stuff, and it played a role with the Causeway Islands, and coincidentally, part of what you're going to talk about those islands does involve aircraft carriers in the Navy. So
it's good to see you guys. Good to see Andrew.
Yes.
We've got such a long history. You were just talking about it. Over 500 years of European history.
Right.
Basically, Bastidas and Columbus, 1501, 1502 were the first time they got there. Balboa discovers the Pacific in 1513. He also discovers, Panama Bay at that time. There's, I guess, some debate whether he actually went to Tobago that year, but it's over 500 years of history. And I think, like most of us, we grew up in the 80s or 70s or 90s,
60s.
that area.
right.
And that's all we know.
Correct.
And we don't really know what happened there. And I used to go to the Causeway. It was my second home. And,
Absolutely.
And I had no idea what was happening right in those waters.
I think at that time, Dave, when we were out there at the Causeway, most of us never even fathomed that at one point you had to take a boat to get out there.
Well, everything was fenced off, and you know how we were raised in a canal zone. If it's fenced off, you're not going back there.
No, but I think what Will was saying, there was no causeway 500 years ago.
Don't even Amador.
Oh, I get you. Sorry.
Yeah, that was
all. That's a recent occurrence.
Yeah, that's the Americans.
But it was
era.
A military base, and you couldn't get out to it.
Right.
So probably Zonians didn't go out there much after World War II.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe
Well, wait, no,
it was
wasn't
public
it
out
built?
then, but
Wasn't it built from the debris from the canal excavation?
yeah, but it was to fortify those islands.
It wasn't a causeway for
They
people to hang
ran
out at.
the
Yep.
munitions and stuff out there.
Yeah.
Breakwater, but they probably said it was a breakwater. It probably had some truth to it as well for currents and stuff. But I think the primary reason was so they could fortify those islands and have trains that go out there and take all the munitions and stuff.
Correct.
It was a military operation.
Well, and like you've mentioned before, Dave, with the Panama Railroad, initially the agreement was to build it and go out there because remember, guys, the tides on the Pacific side were so extreme you couldn't bring big boats in, and
that was the French. Did they have to pay 10 million for not taking it out there?
No,
10 million
it was the
back
Panama
then.
Railroad. The Panama Railroad had in there, they used these islands as the port because
that was a port on the Pacific side.
Yep.
And that's why we're going to talk a little bit about the Spanish tonight, is because Balboa comes over, finds the South Sea in 1513. It wasn't called the Pacific then, so you could say Atlantic and South Sea side. That doesn't flow as nice as Atlantic and Pacific, but it wasn't until 1520 when Magellan came around South America for the first time and discovered the Pacific that they renamed it the Pacific. That was a year after Panama City was born. But the original capital in Panama was down by Darien, but it was too dangerous for them, being attacked and stuff. So they moved their capital to Panama City. And I think when Balboa came across, not only did he see the ocean down in like San Miguel Island, they got in boats and they went across into Perlis. And then in that area, I think they even went. I've read where he made it to Toboga, and he probably went along the coast and stuff and found this area. So when they decided to move the capital to Panama City, they'd already been there.
Right.
Sometime between 1513 and 1519, they were exploring there. So I have I don't have a lot of confidence, but I'm pretty sure that Balboa had spent some time in that area.
Sure.
So sometime around 1513 and stuff is when actually 1519 when they started building Panama City. And that was basically the launch pad for all of the Spanish expeditions. We had the conquistadors. You hear about Pizarro and Davila and these guys, ruthless conquistadors. They all sailed out of Panama City and they went south. And eventually it wasn't until 1532 where they marched in and met the Incan emperor, and then murdered him, and then took his gold. And from the 1501, 1502, when the Spaniards started entering into South America and setting up little colonies there, they brought the disease with them.
Mm-hmm.
And when Pizarro goes to Peru and stuff, like 90% of the Indians had died from disease.
Right.
So they walked through, empty towns and stuff, places that had been like abandoned and stuff. So if they had gone there, first, and they were, full of, probably healthy warriors and stuff, they probably wouldn't have survived. But, so they went there with a really weakened, population there, and then they started taking their gold. So from 1532, it was the end of 1532. So from 1533 all the way till when Drake comes to like Portobello, and I think it was 1571, or that was Morgan. To Portobello and attacks it. The Spanish had 40 years where nobody had come from the Pacific since Magellan.
Right.
It was only the Spanish. They had set up these forts, and one of the things we'll talk about with the Causeway Islands is how they got their names. And when they were building Panama City, they brought in the Spanish engineers, and they called them Flamands,
okay,
or Flamencos, and that goes back to the days when the Spanish were, conquering the world. They went up to like Netherlands and they got into a battle of Flamands. But they had basically, these war engineers that built forts and roads and all that, those types of things. They were
Sure.
skilled. So these guys went around and built forts. You go to Cuba and Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and you see all these Spanish forts, and they all look the same. They had a crew that went and built these forts to the specific standards that they have. Very very well made stone, and that's one of the reasons why the Canal Company tried to hire, or they did hire Spaniards, stonemasons and stuff to come work when they needed stonework, because these guys were expert at it.
Sure.
Jaime
And
Massot's family is got that kind of background.
yeah, and they claim that they were offered gold to come, and when they got there, they were paid silver. So it was,
Right. I've seen that
so
story.
a lot of a lot of bad blood and stuff there. But they were hired specifically for their skills that they had to do specific jobs and stuff. But the old Casco Viejo and stuff that was built with the same Spanish engineers, and so flamenco, could be remnants of where those engineers stayed when they were building these forted cities.
Right.
It was the port. They had the big ships. They had to be in the deep water.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that they would set up their headquarters there and work out of that area.
Sure.
And then, parakeet, I guess maybe they probably had parakeets on there. And then we'll talk about its other name that it got later on. And Culebra Island and Neos. Neos was an old Spanish word for ship, like the old galleons that we see.
Right.
And so it would make sense. That's where they were.
Sure.
So that's how those islands got their names. So they weren't called the Causeway Islands because there was no causeway.
Right.
So they called it. A lot of times you hear it called Perico Harbor.
Sure.
And then eventually it became Ancon Harbor. And the French were going to build their canal between Neos Island and where the Officers Club is, that area. It went through there, and I would imagine they did that because it went right by where the port was. It didn't need to go the other way. All the ships were probably anchored on that side. It just made sense to put the start of the canal on that side where the ships were.
And that's kind of where the Nimitz was.
Yeah, exactly.
Bugged. Yeah, right in that same area.
Went out that way, and so
Andrew went back in history.
So you look at these old pictures, and you'll see ships docked out there. But before the causeway cut off the middle of the harbor, all that area could have been an anchorage.
Sure.
Look, it's 3.5 miles of road to get out to the island. So that's a big area. So we basically put a road right in the middle of the harbor. Because we repurposed it with the canal.
Correct.
And then the anchorage just got moved, and because you didn't need that anymore, it wasn't a port. But Ricky, you're right. The Panama Railroad, when they got their contract, that was the port, and so everything had to go. Basically, we talked about it last time. They use these tenders. You would have a big ship to load stuff on the smaller ship or a smaller boat. And then they would take the smaller boat into shore.
Yeah.
And it's probably very labor intensive. And then, if you got heavy stuff, you need a bigger boat, and it just becomes logistically a nightmare. So the Panamanians, or it was, Gran Colombia at the time, told the Panama Railroad, part of the condition is that you have to build the railroad out to the port.
Right.
And the Panama Railroad, they also put in a penalty if they didn't do it, and it was $200,000 each year.
Wow.
And
a lot of money back then.
Yeah, and for 10 years they didn't do it, so they ended up spending $2 million,
right,
and got nothing. And back then $2 million was
a lot of money.
But they were making so much money, they probably figured
that's exactly right.
It didn't make sense. But
cost of doing business the way it is.
yeah,
Right,
it was
right. They
cost
had to
of doing
close the
business.
deal.
So we're going to talk about
That's
all
actually
these
smart
different
negotiation.
things that happened in that area before we know it. But it's also an area that one, it used to be part Fort Grant, which was named after a U.S. president, and then
Sure.
another president there. So my segment tonight was going to be the Causeway Islands from pirates to presidents. So
Right.
basically the 1960s, going from 15. We're going to start in 1513 because the Spaniards were there. They had 40 years. They were bringing gold in from the Incas. Each
Yeah.
ship that they sent, they shipped Panama to Cuba or to Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, but typically Cuba. And then from Mexico, they were bringing gold from Mexico to Cuba. And then they would leave Cuba, and that's why there's so many shipwrecks off of Key West and stuff, because they'd come up and they'd wreck. And but each one of those ships, they say that they're valued about $1 billion today worth of gold and stuff. They
Well,
were doing it for 40 years before they got
Well, I'll tell you what,
attacked.
when you start talking, and we'll mention it here in just a moment about Francis Drake and the amount of gold that guy got, it is astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy
Yeah.
was organized crime
Yeah.
like nobody's business.
All right, so I'm just gonna I'll go back to the slide that we have. So we had Balboa came across the isthmus, and he had his golden war dog called Leoncito. So I just thought we'd just remind everybody about that little thing, because we don't really talk a lot about Balboa. I mean, it's
Right.
our hometown, it's our school and stuff, but I didn't really know a whole lot about him. He got beheaded. He discovered the Pacific, and that's like, oh yeah, that's all.
Even
you
in
don't need to know.
California, there's a lot of Balboa.
But these guys, one of the things that why they took this job to go on these voyages is because they were able to keep 4/5 of whatever they found, and they had to give 20%, 1/5 to the crown.
Correct.
And so my thought is, what the heck did they do with their 4/5? Did they send it back to Spain where they weren't, or did they keep it somewhere in Panama?
Right.
And they bury it somewhere and stuff like that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. But the Spanish were collecting all the golds. They would unload the ships on the Pacific side. They'd stock it up at the basically the treasury in old Panama. And then when they got enough, they would, probably in the more of the dry season, not in the wet season, they would get these mules, 200 mules, and they
Right.
would haul it over to Portobello, Nombre de Dios, where they would get on another ship, and then they'd send it to Cuba and then to Spain.
Yep.
But for 40 years, these guys are making $1 billion every time it goes over there. So Spain was just killing it. And then that, what happens when people have money? Someone wants to take it. So that's where people like Francis Drake comes in. He was called a privateer.
Yeah.
And basically he was sank, or it's kind of like 007. Yeah, you work for the British government, but we don't recognize you, and
Right.
just do your stuff clandestine and just take their stuff, and we'll protect you, but we won't admit that we have any part in this. And so he came, and Morgan both came to Panama. They started on Morgan attacked Portobello, and then he came back. Well, let's start with Drake.
Yeah.
Because they kind of overlap. But Drake comes to first time he comes to Panama. He goes to Portobello, and they get beat back. They don't have enough forces to beat the Spaniards, and he actually gets injured and stuff. But he comes back, and the second time he crosses. We talked about Columbus stopping at the Chagres River, and his brother got in a little canoe and went down the Chagres, and was gone for like 2 or 3 days. But then he came back, and I always thought that if he had gone just a little bit further, like to Gorgona area, and he got on the mountain, he would have been able to see the Pacific Ocean.
That's
But for
right.
whatever reason, they turned around and came back before they discovered it. But Drake did. He went far enough and got to a high point, probably around where Gorgona is, or maybe as far as Luisa, Sierra Luisa by Paraiso,
Mm-hmm.
and got up high enough and was able to see the Pacific Ocean. So he knew the Pacific Ocean was there in 72. Um, but he but he comes back later in I think it was 1580.
Right.
And
Yeah, 1579.
and he goes around South America.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had done that since Magellan in the ship called the Golden Hind. It was originally called the Pelican.
Yeah, it was 1581. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and so he comes around, Straits of Magellan and stuff. Actually finds a new passage through the area, and they call it Drake's Passage now. Takes them 16 days to get through it, but they get through it, and they come around South America, and they find these Spanish outposts and stuff, but they steal their gold and their wine and all that stuff. But when they get up past Ecuador, they find this ship that's laden with gold. It's called Nuestra Senora, and they also give it a nickname called the Caga Fuego, the shit fire.
Yes.
And it's moving slow because it's got so much gold and silver on it. Well, and they've never seen another ship in those waters for so long that Drake basically comes up behind them, and they're like waving at him. Hey, wait a minute, you're not Spanish.
Who the hell are you?
And so Drake captures the ship and all of its gold and silver, and it takes him 6 days to load all of the gold on his ship.
Right.
And then he sails off, and he comes up through Panama, through Toboga, and eventually, he's worried about the Spaniards, and so he ends up going up all the way to the coast of like Vancouver, and then he goes across the Pacific and ends up in Philippines, and then circumnavigates the world and ends up back in England, where he's knighted because he stole so much gold from that ship. It basically paid all the debt that the English government had.
Yes.
And but part of it is that all of that gold was coming into Panama, right into the Panama Bay, and I think Drake may have dropped some off somewhere in the area, because he said he buried his stuff at beaches and islands and stuff like that. So anywhere between Ecuador and Tobago probably has likelihood of finding some of this treasure, because
without a doubt.
I can't imagine that you would go across the sea with your ship full like that. You had the
they have Drake Island is on outside of Portobello.
Yeah.
And,
so
but
but in his career, he stole 30 tons of gold, and he got to keep or I guess it was like 10% of what Spain had.
Right. It says that in his career, that 30 tons of gold equated to 10% of the wealth that Spain had acquired.
So Spain hated that guy, because he came, attacked them a couple times, took their ships and took their gold, and
And I did some calculations on 30 tons of gold today is $4.3 billion. This guy was, he's a top dog pirate here, man. You're talking major money.
So now you know why he was knighted, because he had a job to do, and he did it really well.
Animal, man.
Right. And then of course later on he comes back to Portobello and tries to steal more gold, but that time the Spanish gold was running out. There wasn't anything there, and then he catches yellow fever, and then he dies 1596 off the coast of Portobello, and they dress him in his full knight uniform and put him in a lead casket and dump him overboard, and they still can't find him. But we think about Drake and the Atlantic side and Portobello and stuff like that, but he also was on the Pacific side. He came over to the Pacific side, and he was, first Englishman to see the Pacific.
Yeah.
And then
But
he
he's not the
knew,
most famous one, though.
and he knew that he could sail around and get to that ocean. So
Yeah. No,
all right.
absolutely.
So, but that's a pirate that was probably one of the wealthiest pirates. But probably the most famous one that we all know is
Sir Henry.
Henry Morgan, because he attacked Portobello several times, but I don't want to necessarily talk about the Atlantic side so much as they stop and they at Fort San Lorenzo, and they attack that. They actually had to leave some men behind there to secure it. But then they marched 1,700 men march across the isthmus. Basically the line where the canal ends up going and where the Panama Railroad goes. That was a valley before, the Chagres Valley, and then they came across, and they call it Buccaneer Hill, and it might be Sierra Luisa as well, where they were, or even Ancon Hill, where they were scoping out Old Panama. But 1,700 men. Balboa High School, we only had like 1,200 in our class.
Right.
So that's a lot of people. And when you haven't had any visitors and a force like that comes, because Panama City at that time was about 10,000 people.
If that. Yeah.
No, there was that many there. It was a pretty big place. If you go to the museum that's at Old Panama now, they've got a model of what the town looked like, and it's amazing. It's like, I had no idea it was that big.
Wow.
But they burned it to the ground. He also had gone, raided their mule trains and stuff like that. So Henry Morgan was also one of these guys that, now he's on the bottle of rum, but you don't really associate Henry Morgan with Panama. I mean, like, it always seems like they put these pirates in the Caribbean and they forget about
what they did.
Those
over
movies
here.
you're making, you should have filmed them in Panama.
Right.
Well, there
There's
is
more
one coming
pirate
out.
action here than there was there.
There is one coming out, guys. I think it's called like 1591 or something like that. Or
you're right.
Yeah,
There is one coming out.
Yeah.
But
but
when he burns the city down, they relocate it to where Casco Viejo is, and that's where the Spaniard, the flamencos, the flamans come and they rebuild that city, and it's basically a fortified city, and we've talked about it before. It's got the moat that went around it. And
the presidential palace in Panama has flamencos when you walk in, so it has to do with something then.
Well, those are flamingos.
Oh, flamingos. Okay.
Flamenco is actually a place in Spain.
Yes.
And so a lot of these guys, Balboa and these guys, they came from a certain part of central Spain.
Flamenco. Look at that. Not the same thing.
Yeah. So, Morgan, he plundered about 8.9 million in gold and stuff, and again, they had so much gold they couldn't fit it on they couldn't take it back with them. They had to bury it around somewhere between where they attacked the mules and where their ships were at San Lorenzo.
Yeah. And in fact, talking about having so much treasure, going back real quick to Francis Drake, at one of his heists, they had so much gold and silver, they actually dumped all the rock ballast out of the ship and used that as ballast to keep the ship going.
Yeah,
because they didn't want to leave it behind or buried anywhere.
Wherever they could fit it, they put it.
It's like travelers today with the overhead bins, man.
Right.
Put everything in there.
So, all right. So, I think they might have buried it, and now it's all under the canal because the Chagres River Valley is underwater. All those towns and all those, they're all underwater. So places that people were traveling, a lot of it's underwater.
You have to go ask Lance Wiskowski about that when he was talking
Yeah.
about diving out there.
So it'd be really interesting to see because those are probably some pretty big deposits of treasure that they left.
Yeah.
But then one of the most interesting stories that I learned about that I never knew. This is called. Let's go on to the next one. The Battle of Perico. Is that the next slide?
I don't. I think. Shit, I don't think I put that one on here. Sorry.
Here, there's one little. Graphic. I can.
Uh,
Let me start up my
I can
computer
pull it up
again.
on mine here.
My computer goes to sleep, so I can't see anything.
No, I can. Is it the one with Grant's? Is it before Grant?
It is.
Because I have them.
I kind of lost it. It's the Era 2 Pirates of the South Seas.
Here we go. Here it is. Okay.
I forgot to talk about
Yeah.
the Pilgrim Pearl
Yes.
when Balboa discovers the Pacific, and he goes over to Pearl's Islands. One of the reasons they call it Pearl Islands is because he gets this pearl,
right?
And it's in the center of that graphic there. It's enormous.
Yes.
And it's called La Pellegrina, or the Pilgrim.
Right.
And
one of the unique things about it was perfectly round.
It's
doesn't really occur in nature.
And where is it now? Is that in a museum somewhere?
No.
Go ahead, Dave. This is fascinating.
All right. So he Balboa gets this this pearl, and it's perfectly shaped. It's like the largest pearl in the world, and it's like perfect. And you can just look at it. I mean, if you saw a real image, it looks like it's about 2 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enormous. At least 1.5 inches. I mean, it's huge. But look it up. But he sends it back to Spain and gives it to the King of Spain. And the King of Spain is married to Queen Mary the First.
Right.
And so you can look at her paintings, her official paintings and stuff, and she's wearing this thing around her neck and had it fitted and stuff like that. And the other interesting thing about Queen Mary and the King of Spain is that they were first cousins.
I'll figure that one out.
And then you also read where, one of the detriments of the Spanish Empire was that they were kind of known for inbreeding, and that didn't fare well later on.
No,
so,
we were going to include this slide, but I went ahead and threw it in there anyway since you were talking about it because you asked about it. But yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, so she gets it and dies, but it gets passed around to several different prominent queens and princesses and stuff. I can't remember their names, but it goes like 5 or 6
around to royal families.
Royal families get it, and then eventually it ends up with the princess of Russia. And this was before the Russian rebellion,
the revolution,
and they had to flee for their lives to Paris, France, and so they left everything behind except the son took this pearl with him. He hid it in his jacket or whatever.
He's like, this is worth some money, man.
Yeah. So it ends up in France, and then ultimately they have to sell it, and it ends up in an auction hall in London. And Richard Burton buys it for Elizabeth Taylor for $36,000.
$36,000. Can you imagine?
And now it's worth like $2.5 million.
Oh, yeah, every bit of it, I'm sure.
Yeah. But I'm not exactly sure where it is. If she still owns it or she put it in a museum. But it traveled around, and it's famous, and it's Panamanian, and it's in a half a dozen of these old world royalty. It's got in their pictures. One of the kings actually had it dangling off his hat. You see, like one of those Three Musketeer hats, and he had it dangling like a little
It's good to
little
be the king.
ornament and stuff like that.
Only the king can do that.
But that's a Panamanian pearl. I mean, basically the first things that
La
that Balboa
Peregrina.
discovered in the Pacific. That's what he brought back with him.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Now, you said the last person that has it is Elizabeth Taylor?
Yeah,
that was her estate,
Okay.
obviously, because she's dead now. But her estate is
Yeah,
allowed
her
to
estate.
have it.
Yeah, of
yeah.
course.
I don't know if she gave it to the museum or not. Who has it? But
Homework.
I can't remember. Someone put on an encyclopedia, but I'm also forgetful.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't have any notes. I do all this from
You do. You
from
do a
memory
great
because I
job.
can't read my notes and do the video at the same time.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So
But no,
I
it's
forget.
it's an interesting, early era of the islands, and really early on the islands were there, but they didn't play a major role. But then once you start getting into this third era here, where we started getting into the mid 1800s, this is when suddenly things change a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the Battle of Perico.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
and I'm trying to find where that
It's
one.
the era 2.
Oh, era 2. That's right. You did say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
So just to do quickly, after Drake and Morgan come across, there's other pirates. The one was called Richard Sawkins, and then Harris. They're a pair. They march across the isthmus in the 1680s,
Right.
and they steal. They call them piraguas. If you know, like a large canoe. If you ever remember, like the cardiac arrest. That was called a biragua. So somewhere between a cayuca and a biragua, there were these little boats that they stole. And the Spanish have their ships docked out at Perico Island. And of course, they see these pirates coming along, and so they go after them. And they get into a bloody battle right off of Perico Island. So basically between like La Boca, Casco Viejo, and Perico, these guys are fighting. The pirates have their like muskets and grenades and stuff, but they're just in these open canoes. And so they go up to these ships. They try to stay in the front because the cannons are on the side.
Right.
And they're firing at the pirates, and the pirates are firing at the Spanish. And the pirates start boarding the ships. They put sticks and logs in the rudder so that the Spanish can't steer the ships.
A maneuver.
And they throw these grenades on them. Ships catch fire, and they're blowing the heck out of each other with those musket guns. And the pirates managed to kill the captains of these Spanish ships and take them over. And they actually confiscated one of them and then rode off with it. But there were like 77 Spaniards that were killed, and
Wow, it was bloody.
50 pirates that were killed, and then that's where Perico Island has a nickname called Dead Man's Island because that's where a lot of them were buried. But you see these pirate movies and stuff where they're having this battle and whatever. Would you believe you're sitting at Perico Island or at the Amador
Right.
Beach, and all of a sudden there's a pirate battle going on right there? I
Right
had
there.
no idea there was a big bloody pirate battle there.
Nope, none whatsoever.
And
yeah,
no clue.
So now, so tell me about the guacamole, because I saw that in there and I was like, "What is guacamole?"
So this is another pirate, and he was not like Francis Drake. He was, these guys were smart guys, a lot of them,
Sure.
and
It's a
had
different
their
era.
talents.
Everybody had
But
this
this guy was like a
different
doctor, and he was a botanist and other things. He was also a pirate, and so when they were sailing around, he was writing in a journal. And when they're off the coast of Panama City, he writes in his journal about this dish that they learned about, and it's called guacamole. Or they're going to call it guacamole back then, but they use avocado and lime and stuff, cilantro, but he writes about it in his journey, and he has this book, and it's a fabulous book, a travelogue of all these places that he went to, and And so this is the first time that there was a recipe written in English for guacamole. He also has other terms that he, first time ever heard barbecue and chopsticks and tortillas
Right.
and stuff like that. So he introduced a lot of these new things
Sure. Sure.
back to the old world. And you think about it, from the 1513s, with all this gold and wealth coming, everybody knew what Panama was.
Right. Of course.
Everybody knew it.
Yes. 100%.
Panama, that
They
place,
knew about it more then than in the future.
that bay was the center of the world.
Absolutely.
As it is today.
Yeah, it was the center of the world, and I've never knew any of this stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's just kind of like mind blowing to read. Like, really, that was in my backyard. I had no
And
clue.
somebody just threw in a chat real quick the update on that pearl that sold for $11 million.
All right, 11 million. I was off by a couple million.
You can try to shortchange him a bit there, but,
All right, but
after her death for 11.8.
I don't know. I read about so much stuff. It's hard to. All right, so let's move on.
Yeah.
So
let's move into then the next era. Then era 3, or actually, hold on. This is the wrong slide here. Oh yeah, here we go. We started now moving towards this new era where we're going to be, I guess you could almost say, starting to modernize the world there in Panama.
Yeah, well, we talked about the 1850s, 1852. Basically the Panama Railroad had started. It only made its way to like Gatun at 1852. We had the gold rush going on in California. The U.S. said we need to send some troops over there to keep the peace and whatnot. So Ulysses S. Grant was stationed in New York, and he was a lieutenant captain. And they said, "Hey, we're sending you guys to California. Get on the boat, go through Panama, and get your butts over there."
Oh, we lost them.
Yeah, I think he might have hit a button there accidentally, but yeah,
there he's back.
They had reservations to go use the train, and they're like, "Sorry, we sold your tickets to a higher bidder."
That's right.
And so it was actually, I think, mules and stuff they were looking for. But
and we've learned that in today's prices, those tickets were going for up to $3,000.
Yeah,
over 3,000. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, we got the Uncle Sam price of $3. What do we?" But so they decided to march across the isthmus. In doing so, with the rain and cholera and stuff like that, Grant lost 182 of his men.
Ooh.
And so they finally make it to their destination on the Pacific side, and they end up camping on Flamenco Island for 6 weeks because they're waiting for their ship to San Francisco to arrive. It wasn't
the departure point is that those islands,
right? And so so Grant was out there for 6 weeks, and then later on, when the fortifications were being built out there at the causeway, they decided to name that fort in his honor. So all of Amador was going to be called Fort Grant.
Right.
But they were going to name one of the batteries on the island after President Amador. And the widow of Amador said that's not a high enough of an honor.
Sure.
And so they decided they would name.
Yes. Well, as we get them back, Fort Amador is one of the one or two or three U.S. military base that has a foreigner's name.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's where one president comes in, and I lived on Fort Amador before I left.
Right.
I had never heard that story before. Yeah. That was a separate fort. And then, the Canal Zone, it's 10 miles wide, but it also goes out 3 nautical miles. So the Causeway Islands were part of the Canal Zone.
And most people don't realize that. I don't think I realized that the borders went out into the water. It wasn't just on the shore.
Yeah. And it didn't go as far as Toboga, right. but the U.S. had basically a lease with the Panamanians,
right,
for a number of places, which included some of the Tobago Island and some of the smaller islands around there that they also use for fortifications. They had guns out on
Yeah.
Tobago, and radars and other types of stuff eventually. So it wasn't necessarily the Canal Zone, but it was part of the fortifications. And then when the French were there, they had a hotel. They called it a sanatorium where people would recuperate. Like Gauguin, the painter, was there
Yeah.
recuperating when he got sick when he was working on a canal. But then when it reverted, the U.S. acquired all French properties, and so they acquired the sanatorium, which then they renamed the Hotel Aspinwall, and 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 I think you see pictures. Sometimes there's a building with an American flag on it. That's probably the building,
That would make
and
sense.
because it was American, property.
Right.
And they
On a
tried to
Panamanian island.
they tried to get possession of 4/5 of it. Basically, probably they wanted everything except the town. Like Panama City is and Cologne are in the zone, but they were excluded out.
Sure. Didn't make sense to try and move an entire city out, so you just
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
make the
So,
exception.
but the pirates loved Tobago, and they spent a lot of time in Tobago as well. And I think that what Andrew was saying, let's pick up on that.
Well, it's a big enough island that you could. I mean, it probably had a lot of food and stuff on it. It was whereas the other islands, Flamenco and Naus and
Yeah.
all, they're kind of small in
Well,
the general sense of things. So
yeah.
you're not gonna find deer. You're not gonna find rabbits. You're not gonna find all that stuff out there. Where in
And
Tobago,
what you are going to find is a Canal Zone happy hour at the Canal Zone Yacht Club
Yes, exactly.
viewer who lives out there.
Yes.
All right, that's cool.
Yes.
Hey, the pineapples in Tobago were transported to Hawaii, so all the Hawaiian
That's
pineapples
probably
were,
where they learned.
Oh, that's where the crop came from.
Panamanian bred.
The Panamanian strain. How about that?
Yeah. So, but those are some of the interesting things that there's probably buried treasure somewhere on Tobago Island. I'm sure people
Sure.
look for it and stuff. But a lot of
Sure.
pirates were out there. I mean, this was their backyard. I bet if you mentioned Perico Island to a pirate, they knew exactly what that was.
Right.
So, but anyway, then the other thing I wanted to mention is that the U.S. currency, there was a $50 bill that had Grant on it, and then in honor of the Panama Pacific Exposition in San Francisco, they put a special back on the $50 bill, and it's kind of hard to see in there, but there's a ship on the Atlantic side and a ship on the Pacific side, and an isthmus in the middle, and then there's like a Lady Liberty, and in underneath it says Panama.
Yeah, it's circle in red there. You can kind of see the little red circle there, and that's actually in Panama. That's actually on the $50 bill.
So can you imagine that Panama is on the U.S. currency, and it's not a Balboa.
Those damn Panamanians, man, they're everywhere.
So that's rare too. Like you said, a foreigner named an American base, and then
a foreign country on
foreign country
currency.
Yeah, it doesn't say Canal Zone, it says Panama.
A little side real quick. How Panama's loved by everybody, right? The Chinese started holding Panamanian flag ships on ports, right? We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Well, about 20 or so countries have backed Panama and said to knock it off. So that's just an example of till today how important that little country is.
Yeah, it never stops. Man. Everybody wants a piece of it.
All right. So now we're going to move on. We'll go up a little bit to Independence Day of Panama.
Yep.
November 1903. There was the gunboat Bogota, basically hiding out behind the Causeway Islands. There was no causeway, but those at Perico Island and stuff. It shoots cannonball into Casco Viejo, and the lore is that it killed a man and a mule.
There you go.
And that boat, what had been refurbished, it was a private yacht that was refurbished into a gunboat. Basically, had a small cannon on it, and then it had a mercenary crew. They were U.S. crew. They were basically hired by the Colombians to man it, and the captain, his name was Captain Marmaduke. He had been a former Civil War captain or sailor, and he was on stationed on the Merrimack, one of those ironclads.
Yes, he was a Confederate.
Yeah, Confederate. So he's captaining this boat. He's the one that shot the cannonball into Casco Viejo and kills the mule and the man. And the Panamanians return fire on the ship, on the cannons that they had at
In Casco Viejo.
at the end there, and that was an old Civil War cannon that had been basically repurposed, and Panamanians bought it, and so
So they replayed a Civil War battle.
yeah, we're playing the Civil War, getting shot at by a Civil War cannon, and he's out there, and those are types of things that you don't ever hear about either. But this
Right.
boat is. Will you have a picture of that 3D image of that?
Let me see where that thing is. Bear with me here. Let me see, and you can go on while I pull it up here. But
Right. But it's slide 12 or somewhere around there.
let's see.
But it was a small boat, but could you imagine being out at those islands and then all of a sudden there's a naval battle going on right there? And we talked about another naval battle at the Loretano that happened like a year or two before that. The ship was out there doing that. But these are some of the types of things that were happening right there in the Panama Independence. There's basically a naval battle right there off of those islands as well.
Yeah.
So we won't dwell on it anymore. Well, let's go on to the next one.
Okay. Yeah, and this is something interesting. It's just a different perspective of what that looked like, that shelling, sort of kind of in a little bit more real time to give you some perspective there. This gunboat was out fairly close to the islands out there, and it was firing, from that distance out to Casco Viejo. And as you can see, this is what it looked like prior to the causeway. You had 3 islands out there, and then the shore. You had, of course, Ancon Hill, Sosa Hill, and just that area there, Casco Viejo, because it wasn't, in 1903, obviously you had more of Panama City now, but it was still part of, part of what we're not familiar with, this view here, because we're used to seeing these islands all connected with the roads, and
that's where the Nimitz is parked right now.
Yeah. What a coincidence. Correct. Ended up in that
I hope it doesn't light up anything.
I know, right? They'll kill more than one donkey and one person. I
Hey,
guess
guess what the road outside of the naval headquarters is in Amador? What it's called?
It is Nimitz, isn't it?
It's Nimitz Circle.
Right, I do remember that.
All right.
Yes.
Hey, Captain Andrew, make sure you point that out when you bring the sailors aboard.
No kidding. So, and this is an interesting part here that we kind of switched gears and threw some stuff maybe a little bit out of order, but this was kind of around that same era with this whole quarantine station here. Tell us about that, because that's a really big, interesting deal there.
Well, back when this was a port and the ships came in, you had to have these quarantines, and I think it started with the French, or even before, whenever ships became popular to travel. But you would have bubonic plague, you could have diseases and different things, and so oftentimes you went through quarantine, and so they used Culebra Island as the quarantine station. So a ship that came in, they would watch them for a number of days to make sure that if anyone was sick, they would got removed, or they weren't going to let them ashore. And so that it's close to the city, but it's far away, and so
it's became on an island.
Yep. So
and Culebra's the one that has the Smithsonian, right? Or no, that's Naos.
That's Naos.
Which one's
Culebra is the
Culebra
one
has
that was between across from basically butts up against the
This one where you'd bust a right at Amador Beach.
Amador Beach, yeah.
You'd make that right turn there, where the other one you could continue going down the causeway, and that little one ended up being Culebra.
Yeah.
You could almost say it was really a peninsula of the other island, because it was really almost that small. But
they weren't connected. There was some water in between them, and I think that island got changed with the guns that they put on it later.
Sure.
And but again, it's a very low island.
remember Toboga had that one part when the high tide it would split the two islands, right? And then but it wasn't considered a separate island. It was still part of Toboga.
You know what that's called, don't you?
Hmm.
That sandy part that gets
Yeah.
covered.
No.
It's called a tombolo. Tombolo.
All I know is
Tombolo.
is that the one in
All right.
Toboga? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I almost drowned there when I was a little kid. We went out there and it was when the tides kept coming in and it kept pulling me out and it was probably about 6 or 7 feet, and I would think I was like 5 or 6 years old at the time, maybe a little older. But all I know is I'd go down to the water to the bottom and I'd push my way up enough to break the surface and get some more air. And then my cousin spotted me and ran down and pulled me out of the water.
All right.
It was a goner, man. That was scary because it really did. That tide would come in, and you can appreciate from something like that why they had to build a causeway because water really moved when those tides were coming in and out. It was no joke, man.
Yeah,
well,
the next weekend he was at Balboa getting his B batch.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we have a 20-foot tide, and so it's a lot of water.
There's a lot of water.
But you can, when you go out there, you can see some of these old foundations. But part of it used to be a quarantine area, and that's you may or may not have known that. Maybe you heard of it, but you can see these old photographs and stuff that show quarantine. All right, so just one thing we wanted to point out that what those islands were used for that you may not know. Next,
Sure. Well, and then this is now where things start to get interesting because this is now, I guess, the modern era, you could call it, right? This is post Panama Canal construction, and now it's more about the world has been explored in this area. We know what we have, everything's set up there. Now it's about protecting this canal and other things there. So, really interesting era here for me, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk about the bunkers that were there and all the fortified guns that they're the largest rifled cannon in the world was located out at Flamenco.
Amazing.
And basically that cannon would shoot 20 miles out, if any ship coming up, because they didn't have planes back then.
Right.
I mean, they were just starting, but so they were worried about ships and stuff. So that could shoot out 20 miles. And then they had other cannons, they're called mortars, like 14-inch mortars. And a lot of it was the trajectory of the artillery that went out. But the mortar would go up and then it would land on the ship from the top because you don't have as much steel protecting it from the top than on the side. So they had different types of cannons there, and they don't go out as far. And then they also had submarine nets that they put out there. They also put mines at different points, and that's where you hear about there were. Like where we went fishing, where the pilot boats are, they called it the mine docks. It used to be old parking for the mine, mine tenders. And there's the story too of one of the pilot boats, going around the island there when the mines are out, and it accidentally, one of them went off and killed the crew. And so but a lot of submarine nets and a lot of things that were there. The fleet would dock out there. The Nimitz is out there, but it's not the first time we've had aircraft carriers docked there. It's probably pretty close to where we have an aircraft carrier in the image there, but Saratoga and others were parked out there. They would do war games out there in the bay. They would practice war games out there. The aircraft carriers, I don't know if you could really see it from Panama City so much, but
and that's what's interesting. Earlier, you had mentioned that here we used to go out and hang out and party at this place, but back in that era, like you mentioned, it probably was closed off. It was probably gates there. You couldn't access it as easily as you could now. But I can just imagine if this was, the way us Zonians are, skip school because the PT boats are out there going to do some maneuvers. We're going to go out there, get some beers and sit on a causeway and watch these guys run around and shoot each other because that's what they were using those islands for.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to see in this image, but on the one on the top right, that's the Saratoga's in the foreground, and then Flamenco Island is in the background there, and you can basically see it looks like Flamenco and then Neos Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone said record swordfish caught off mine dock. That was probably John Wagner's uncle.
Okay.
He has several records, and there's a lot of records off the causeway of line catch hand line fishing.
Interesting.
But but you can see in the bottom picture, it's the United States Navy. This is 1943, and there were 122 ships anchored out there.
Yeah.
And one of the little things that we have marked on there is San Juan Rock, and if you can't really see it unless you're on the backside of Flamenco Island, but there's a little rock out there, and so you can see where the ships are.
What
And
was the nickname of that island?
that whole bay was filled with ships. I mean, tons of
Yeah.
ships.
Yeah, you think 100 and something ships. I mean, that's a flotilla there, you know?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what the nickname of San Juan Island was?
San Juan
I
Rock.
could be mistaken, but wasn't that Bird Shit Island?
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew that was
Yeah.
Bird Shit Island.
Yep.
But anyway,
Yeah.
So this was in the mid 40s. You know, part of the United States, the defense of the canal. It was a huge armada. It was a big show of force as well, obviously, to show that the canal is protected. But there was a lot more going on than just that Saratoga. And the Saratoga, by the way, went to Panama several times. It wasn't just the one time that it went to. They did quite a few maneuvers since the mid 30s. They were aware of that and looking at doing that. So
They would do war games on the Atlantic and Pacific side to see who could like destroy each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And stuff. So that whole area, I mean, it was a military complex. Not just the guns, but it had the mines boats, it had the PT boats, it had the training, it had submarines and
sure.
the seaplanes. This is between Perico and Flamenco Island.
Yeah.
Basically right out beyond where the shark net was.
Right. If you're in Amador
Seaplanes,
Beach, you'd see behind the net, you would see the planes if that was Amador Beach there.
Yeah, we'd sit and drink beer there and look out there, and
Right.
I would have never guessed in a million years that there'd be 50 seaplane, warplanes
That was a base.
floating out there at one point.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because our strip was the one there between that Flamenco and Perico. That was where we all hung out. Yeah, that was our strip.
That's the hangout. That's where you parked the car.
No idea. Had no idea that Grant would have been at the end and that they buried Marines there.
Right.
And pirates were blowing each other up and Spanish
conquistadors and soldiers all buried right below us, and we're drinking beer.
500 years. Basically, you tell the world history from 1513 happened right in our backyard. I mean,
a millennium right below us,
and had no clue.
No clue at all. Yeah, it's incredible. It's really amazing these stories. When we, especially this one here, because we have talked about the air power and the Air Force and the aviation in the Canal Zone, right? But we never talked about a seaplane base, and that's a pretty good size one there. It's not one or two planes.
Well, we have mentioned that the Canal Zone at one point, and this is one of David's shows, the Canal Zone had an airline that was seaplanes out of the Atlantic side.
Yeah,
and then out of Puerto Balboa, right? Yeah. Diablo, like spinning club area.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
But that wasn't. Yeah.
So you had the seaplanes. You obviously we talked about the guns, the big guns, and everything. But the other one that is a really big deal, and this one I definitely had no idea that this was going on here. And it seems like this is the one that would have been cool to watch if you had a boat in the zone. I could see, for example, Al Sprague jumping on his boat and going out and watching this stuff growing up down there. But we're talking about then Toboga and these PT boats. This amazing story.
Yeah. So that little island that you're talking about across the Tombolo, El Moro Island is what it's called.
Okay.
Was a PT boat training base. I've heard it referred to as Camp Edwards, but then when I try to do research on it, it's like someplace in New Mexico. So maybe it was top secret. But they would train these PT boats out there, and they would bring them in, and they'd travel around the bay and stuff. And of course, one of the most famous PT boat operators was President Kennedy, and he was trained on Toboga Island for I think it was 6 weeks or more, maybe 3 months. And and then when he was shipped out, he went over to the Philippines, and that's where he commanded that PT boat 109. But these guys came and trained, and you can find videos and photographs of all these places. But
Yeah,
right there,
the
Omar
ultimate,
Island
the
was.
ultimate shakedown base, and a shakedown base is basically, and kind of what Andrew was alluding to earlier tonight with the Truman ship up in Washington. It's doing its shakedown, right? They're getting it all. Everybody's starting to occupy it. They're training on it before you deploy or put it out, on permanent duty. And it's the same thing here. You join the Navy. You're assigned to a PT boat crew. You went to Panama. That's where you trained because it was tropic, so it was very much what you had in the Pacific. The weather was great year round for it and all that. So it was an ideal situation to simulate what you were going to be doing out there. And they even talk about going out to the Perilous Islands out there and using the radars to track barges and stuff like they would be doing out in the Pacific later on. It's pretty amazing, man. PT boats are big boats, man. It's.
So if we were out there drinking beer and we saw the PT boats going doing their training and stuff, it was like, hey, that guy driving, and he's going to be future president.
That's it, right? Look at that guy there, man. That's exactly right. And the other interesting story that I found out about that with Kennedy, he was in Toboga with PT 101 was his boat out there, and he basically was, because he was a Kennedy. Remember, the Kennedy family, even back then, was a powerful, connected family. It was a safe gig for him, and he didn't like that. And he reached out to a senator in Massachusetts that pulled strings to get him transferred out to the Pacific to go to war, because he's like, man, I'm not going to sit back here in Panama. As nice as it is, he's like, I need to go to war. And so, he was in Panama. It was going to be maybe he was going to be in charge of training or whatever it was, but they didn't have any intention of moving him out of there until he had to pull some strings with that. I think it was.
That's right, because he lost an older brother already.
Mm-hmm. And so they were protecting the family, was protecting the name, and he said, no, I'm gonna, which again, he had political aspirations, I'm sure, and he's like, listen, I gotta be a war hero if I'm gonna be a president, man. I can't sit behind the lines.
Yeah. Well, this image shows them, training off of Flamenco Island, and then the image on the right is a Panamanian stamp of Kennedy.
Yep.
So that's nice. We've done a show on how many presidents are on a Panamanian stamp before, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
And then the bottom left is basically the PT boat base that was at El Morro Island, the different PT boats that were docked up there. And when you're there, you can see like remnants of buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
And there had been other things there, but part of that it was because it was a U.S. PT boat base. And I've been there. I went swimming out there. I had no idea.
No, exactly. Didn't think anything about that at all. Especially like you said, because Toboga wasn't part of the Canal Zone technically. That was Panamanian territory, so you wouldn't assume that stuff was taking place there.
Yeah.
But so now this is where things kind of come full circle, and to me, what of all of the areas of Panama, other than of course the canal itself, which is a radical change from the initial land there, the causeway to me in those islands are probably the thing that has changed the most over the years, and here we go again with a massive change, because you went from some massive guns, like you said, they're shooting 20 miles, and then they decide, wait a minute, we're past all that, past World War II, we're going in the modern era, and so that's when they kind of switched gears here, didn't they?
Yeah, they in the 60s they put Hawk missiles out there, that they could wheel them out from the bunkers that they had and launch them if they needed them. Kind of like what we're seeing today. The people hide their missiles from behind a bunker, and then they bring them out when they're gone. And that's a picture of the Hawk missiles that were stationed out at Flamenco. And Captain Andrew took us on a tour of that area last time we were down there, and got to go into some of those things. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. And that part there would be cool to see, especially if they were doing practice, on those, because even from Balboa you'd be able to see those things going up.
And you can see Toboga's out on the far left out there.
Yeah.
So it's right there on the canal, and so they changed it from a cannon. These things were probably even more accurate and went twice as far.
Heck yeah, every bit.
And of course the aggressor was probably going to be in an aircraft, not a boat.
Right. Yeah, those are yeah, those surface to air missiles. They're going after the
Bombers
aircraft.
and that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I never knew they had missiles out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
me neither. I thought it
I
was
never
all
knew that. When I
the,
saw
the
that, I'm
big
like,
guns.
no, that's not true.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fascinating. It's amazing that the history that that these islands have had, the different changes that they've experienced. They've gone from pirate hideouts, to leisure places to deep water ports. And then from there they've gone to strategic points for defending the canal, and now you come to 2026 and there are cruise ships and restaurants and
malls.
and hotels. Yeah,
But the
it's just-
the Smithsonian's still out there.
But think about it, what it is today. And then I just saw.
We lost them. Yeah, the Smithsonian's still out there, and I'd like to maybe do a show one day, Willie, about and talk about the Smithsonian.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Though I think that would be fascinating. The Smithsonian, it has so much history that they've done there. And even like what we've talked with Nolia Garcia about, what his mom and dad did, out on the islands out there. That was all part of Smithsonian's operations as well.
Yeah, I'd love to do a show on that. Get everybody up to date on what's it all about.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of us have an idea. Like for me, I say it would be like animals and jungle and medicine and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, no.
But I'm sure there's other stuff that they did.
Yeah. We didn't talk about the Smithsonian today, but they were out there. And then, of course, we had the Surfside Theater. Remember that was out there?
Yes, I do remember that.
Absolutely.
But I used to it'd be interesting to hear in the comments what people did, but I used to go to the Amador Beach when I was a kid all the time.
Yes, I did.
And
me too.
When I lived on Amador, Fort Amador, right by the Officers Club, I'd ride my bicycle down that causeway all the time.
Mm-hmm.
One time I even got pulled over by the Guardia because back then it was a joint base and that part was controlled by the Guardia because I didn't have a bicycle license plate.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And they made me follow them in one of those Volkswagen police cars down to the headquarters right there by the where the old ball field was.
Yep, right across the street. Yes.
And the sergeant was like, "What the hell? Get this guy out of here, man!"
What are you guys doing, man? Leave this guy alone, man.
Yeah.
I didn't have my wallet with me. I didn't have any money. I couldn't pay him anything. So
Somebody was looking for a little cash. That's what that was.
But man, we used to spend so much time out there.
Yeah, no.
After proms, you go out there.
Yes, that was
New Year's or whatever. But every Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly the Canal Zone college kids would hang out there all day long, and then Balboa High School would come after school because you'd have to skip to go there.
Yeah.
Go at lunchtime.
Or lunchtime. You know what we would go to is the Amateur Officers Club. They had you pay a flat fee and then you can eat all the sandwiches all the sandwiches you wanted, but we would just make ginormous stacked up sandwiches. But that was a spot for us for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was. I mean, there's so many great memories of the Causeway, and I mean, it really was. That was the one place that everybody looked forward to hanging out. When if it was a half day for school or exams or everything, you knew you were going to the Causeway. And the smart guys would go
or senior skip day. Remember that, guys?
Yeah.
Senior skip day. That was huge at the Causeway as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
But
man.
now when you go out there, there's like Bucaneros. And that it makes sense to have a Buccaneer themed restaurant and stuff. Like that.
Yeah, they should.
And it's like but I don't think people realize that there's a connection between.
No, I think the history. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what everybody thinks, but to me, when I see comments and people talk on social media about the Causeway, they only go really back towards the when we were there. There's not much, with all the podcasters talking about the Canal Zone and whatnot. Right. Yeah, they really don't talk about the earlier era days.
Yeah. Well, before I started reading about all this stuff, 15 years ago, I would have told you like the causeway started in 1960.
Yeah, with the right. Me too, me too. I did some research for the show, and it was interesting. Yeah, all the things that I found out about it.
It's so many aha moments when you start reading this stuff. It just it's amazing how much
Yeah,
how much more history is out there, and that's why we appreciate you doing it because there's
But
so
it was,
much.
islands on the end of on a military base, and so I think for the average Panamanian, they couldn't go out there, and I don't know how many Americans went out there early on, like when they started making it. Okay, or if they did, did they high school kids go out there and party in the 50s? I don't know. I don't see any pictures of that era.
Yeah, I wonder when that started. Yeah, we've got a couple guys here that graduated before us. I wonder if they were also partying out there.
I'm sure. Well, that in itself, that might be a show for some Causeway memories. That would be a fun.
I
show.
got some great pictures, man. Let's do that.
That's always been that is for Zonians. For the Zonian youth, the Causeway was one of those staples that. I don't care where you went to school, if you lived on the Pacific side, you spent at least one day on the Causeway. No doubt.
Yeah, and then Sunday was like set aside for Panamanians to go out there.
Yes.
Sunday was their day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sunday seems like it was. There was a lot of Panamanians went out there, and any day prior they didn't. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. It looks like Dave might have jumped off here or fallen off. He had some connection issues this evening, but no,
great show, man. God, I loved it.
There was a lot of really interesting things went on. It was, a great, like I said, a lot of changes. Excuse me. The islands themselves, just the whole causeway. The concept of the causeway, that was necessary because of those big tides moving in and out. And he's back again real quick there. Let me try and pull him in here real quick so we can properly say goodbye here. But hey, there you are, Dave.
All right.
But no, listen, again, it's just absolutely fascinating to learn all about, the different faces of the causeway, the different eras and what it served, because it's gone from a place to hang out and convalesce. It's gone to a place to catch a boat to go, I guess, probably up to the west coast of the United States. It was a place for trade. It was a place for research, and certainly a place for military and protection. And most importantly, though, it was a place to drink beer with fellow Zonians, I mean, but if there's one place that everybody in the zone on the Pacific side can relate to, it's the Causeway, man, because everybody set foot on there. And
today, guys, it's a 6-lane highway going out there with roundabouts, malls, best restaurants, condos.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible, like they said, Panama reclaimed. It's a very national asset.
This is, the Isthmus of Panama has had all these glory eras, but they've kind of belonged to other people, right? They belong to the French, to the Spanish,
Spaniards first,
these people, and now it's Panama's time to say, hey, now it's mine. I've had a chance to grow up now, and let me show you what I can do. Right,
they're doing a good job.
It's a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of change in that sense. I'm very much, I like the traditions, especially when it comes to the Canal Zone. But if they were going to change the causeway, I can't really complain about the way they've changed it.
There's a plan out there, and it's going to be executed. And then talking about changing the causeway, they're going to build a super yacht club out there for the yachts that the billionaires and those guys all cruise around in. So it's gonna be past Flamenco, but yeah, they're gonna put a giant. It's gonna be huge. I mean, that's really gonna change what the causeway looks like as well.
Let me real quick, I'm glad you brought that up because Dave shared that with me here, and I forgot to bring that up. But
yeah, which is gonna bring high rises and all that to that area. Which it already has.
That the Panama Railroad.
The one island that has a lot of condos is Culebra.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here it is.
Then Flamenco's got the restaurants and the marina.
Yeah, so there
Perico's got the malls.
Panama unveiled by SF Group of Sweden. And when you're talking super yachts, I mean, if anything, guys, when you watch Formula One, the Monaco Grand Prix, that's where you see all those super yachts in that harbor there, because
We'll
that's
cursor down to the aerial image.
Correct. Now Panama's going to have one of those. Well, it's not only just to park your yacht, but there's also all the other services that go with it. You know, from fixing the boats to
I mean, look at that there, that drawing or that image. It's a rendering, obviously, but dude, there's no more causeway. I mean, the islands are they're dwarfed by all this stuff now.
I don't see it. It's not on my screen.
You don't see it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, do you see it, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on the screen there. It's
okay. Well, my it's maybe my internet's it's
might
down.
be slow, but yeah, when you watch the replay, you'll see it. I mean, you know what? From a quick glance, it looks like that pattern out in Dubai in the marina.
Correct. That's what I remember seeing. Yeah.
What I'm thinking with all this pirate battles and
well, yeah, Willie, we are having connection problems because I'm starting to have problems
some
on
good
my
artifacts
end. I don't know if you guys can even hear me.
Yeah, no, I can hear. Yeah, we can hear you, Ricky, but I don't think you can hear us. I think that might be the issue here. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, Panama is just amazing. The transformation that we're seeing with it, and it's all just absolutely great. I think the future is very, very bright for Panama. And I mean, hey, luck of the draw. You ended up you Panama is a country that's just by its position is always going to have a value to the world, and it's fantastic. And we're just fortunate that we were able to be stewards for a little while, right? As Zonians, be a small part of that. So, but again, Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and do this as usual. It's always a great time, learning about all these different things in the canal zone. What's in stock for us for next month?
Well, I heard you talk about everything's going to be Canal next month, so maybe
Yes.
I need to switch it up.
Yes.
But I was gonna start going down the coast, Amador to Ancon to Balboa, and highlight just like one thing about that area that we don't know about.
Well, that'll be good. Listen, anything that you bring out, it's always enjoyable. Again, I'm a history buff. I love history, so I thoroughly enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like we would talk about the seaplane, the Isthmian Air Base or something like that. Something
right
that
on.
like people may not even know they had it.
Cool.
And we can talk about the fish that were caught off the causeway.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
We have already. It was in a show before, but it's always interesting stuff. We didn't even talk about Noriega's house at the end of Flamenco and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, and at one point, didn't the Chinese want their embassy out there too, or something?
yeah. I think.
Well, no, they were more like right in front of the Officers Club.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. On the main.
That little hill up there where Aftermanis used to live.
Wow, amazing, cool.
That's where I lived too, right next to Andy.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Those were nice up there.
Yeah,
but there it is. Yeah, now I can see it. That's what I saw in the picture. Look at the size of that thing. I mean, the causeway. It's just, my God.
It's a happening place, man. It's a center of attraction for Panama.
Yeah,
so
and all the cruise ships now are unloading.
Why you just build a road out there, right? Like Dubai, they just have the road going out there. The islands are like they're built around the island, not on the islands. What are they serving?
It's crazy. But
in fact, the one at the end is used for Panama Canal purposes, so you can't go on it.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, because that really is, and you're so close to the anchorage out there. I guess it would make sense to have something out there, But
yeah, it's just pretty amazing how you like if you're on Flamenco and you think about all the history. If you just were sitting on there, all the history that went on over 500 years,
right?
You could see it from that spot.
Yeah, we were sitting above.
I'm thinking,
all
this would make an epic movie, for all these things that happen. You're like, you didn't even move the camera, dude.
Well, and you think about it, now they've had a lot of construction there, so some of that stuff has been moved. But when we were out there, heck, if you went wandering and did some digging, you might have come across some coins or something there, because a lot of it at that point wasn't touched very often.
Yeah, think about it. It was military base until nobody went out there exploring. I don't know if anyone went scuba diving and stuff out.
And then you think about this, guys. We were sitting on those rocks there, right, drinking a beer, having fun. Those rocks came from Culebra Cut.
Yeah.
Some steam shovel, some Bucyrus steam shovel, picked those up, threw them on a rail car all the way out there to build that stuff. That's amazing.
That I knew. I mean, you could see the old drill holes in some of the rocks.
Right. Well, you just still don't conceptualize where this came from. This is part of the canal.
It was 19 miles away.
Yeah, right. It's amazing. So anyhow, Dave, listen, thanks again, dude. A fantastic job with this. We know a lot more about the Causeway Islands now than we ever imagined we would know about it. So looking forward to that next month for you. Have a great weekend and have yourself a very happy Easter.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you, David.
Take
We'll
care,
talk
Dave.
to you soon.
See ya. All right, man. So,
all right, man.
Good show.
Like always, man. David just makes our IQ go straight up.
Man. It absolutely does. It elevates it for everybody. You know, we are certification.
You know what happens now, Willie? I go out and get dinner and get a drink, and this is me, Nick, for the next hour. Blah, 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 blah. Talking about everything that we just went over.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, listen, next week, great show. We have a gentleman named Paul Shamella joining us. He's a Navy SEAL. He's supposed to be speaking at the reunion in Orlando upcoming in July there. Great guy. He's got several books written out there, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So this one definitely, our military folks, make sure you join us as well for that one, because it's going to be a lot of fun to learn about another aspect of that military life and the things that they did, you know, in the Panama Canal. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So don't miss it, guys. Next week, Paul Shamella. The week after, we're going to do some Canal Zone Dictionary. And again, don't forget, guys, May is Panama Canal month. We're going to have Captain Andrew F. Demitis on. We're going to have Jim Duffus with the Gatun Locks. We're going to have Lance Wiskowski with the Dredging Division. And Dave Dahlstrom's going to give us some really cool stories there as well. But anyhow, Ricky, the Chief of Bus, is telling us to get out of here, man. So have a great weekend, Papa.
Thank you, guys. Listen, everybody, thank you again for everything. We'll be back next week, same time, with the same love and the same vibes. See you guys next week.
Salute. Cheers, Chris. All right, and we are out. Bam.